Conversation Matters, episode 11, with me, your host, Jerry Lynch.
Before we begin today's podcast, just a word of thanks to Play Creative Agency and their director, Shane Murphy, for the use of his facilities today.
Today's very special guest is James Leonard. James' story is one of a troubled youth, crime, addiction, and time spent in prison, but also one of hope, determination, discipline, positivity, hard work, and support. It is an immense and very powerful and influential real-life story, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you, James, to the podcast today.
Thank you very much, Jerry.
It's very nice to meet you, my man, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and chat with me today.
No problem.
How has life been? Corona and lockdown and everything else going on in the world at the minute?
It has been relatively okay. I have no family or friends that have fallen victim to the virus.
Good start, excellent.
But at the same time, like a lot of people, my head was melted at points during it. You know, we live in a one-bedroom apartment, myself and my wife. We've no real space, and I miss the gym, and I miss going to work and all that. I just I was lacking a bit of structure and routine that I'm used to. But I'm glad to see the lockdown being restricted easily now.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's key, isn't it? I think that we'll certainly touch on it later on. Is the importance of structure and having something to follow. 7 days a week, really. And I suppose I should explain to our listeners today that it's our first time meeting. Yeah. But I must first say that you kind of appeared on my radar day one through your appearance on the Tommy Tiernan Show, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but I have watched it easily 20 times, I'd say. And it gives me chills every single time.
That's 19 more times than me.
Yeah.
I can't watch it.
Excellent. It's a mighty interview. It's very it's inspiring stuff and a very powerful message throughout it. So well done on that appearance on the television. I found it very relatable, even though I thankfully wouldn't have maybe a similar background to yourself or different issues and troubles along the way. But still, I suppose what's so genuine about it is that you can still relate to it. There's some, you're a local man and it's very obvious that it's sincere and genuine and the rest of it, So I wanted to mention that before we kick off. So I guess, James, what's always kind of the norm with these kind of interviews and podcasts is, if you're comfortable to do so, is to maybe bring you back as far as you're comfortable to go back with childhood and upbringing and maybe set a scene for us there.
Yeah, so I was born in Dublin. My father was a Dub, my mother was from Gran. And I was born in Dublin. I have an older brother. I have 2 younger sisters. Myself and my brother was born in Dublin. When I was about 10 months old, we lived in Clondalkin, and in 1985 I was born. So in the mid-80s, Dublin was dog rough, heroin epidemic, AIDS, everything. And my mum was afraid up there, so we moved. My mum wanted to move away from the madness, so she moved to Knocknaheeny.
Fine choice, nothing at all wrong with it.
At the time, wasn't that bad, but mid to late 80s, early 90s, Knocknaheeny was rough. It was as rough. The reputation it has now was formed then.
Right, okay.
The people in Knocknaheeny are fantastic.
Absolutely,
but there's a handful of antisocial people, like myself at the time, that kind of give the place a reputation. But people in Knocknaheeny are salt of the earth. Knocknaheeny and Hollyhill is the one kind of area, and the demographic of that was in the 80s there would have been a lot of people working in Dunlop's and other kind of factory textiles, Fords and stuff like that, and when they closed down, the jobs weren't replaced, or in them working class neighbourhoods, when the jobs left, they weren't replaced, so then you have all the social problems that come with unemployment, alcohol use, drug use, antisocial behaviour, lone parent families, that type of thing,
I understand, yeah. And as you say, it's funny the areas of Cork that you're mentioning, because my own father is born and raised in Gran, so I'm very familiar with the areas, and it's fascinating what you said there, even about that it's way back when that this kind of identity of a certain location or geographical area is formed, and then it just sticks and lasts, and it mightn't be accurate at all today,
Exactly.
It's almost unfair to the people.
Totally. There's a stigma that comes with it then.
Absolutely.
Like, if you're from that area, you're expected to be tough, and you're expected to be a criminal, and you're expected to be a joyride, It's like, he's from Knocknaheeny, and I can remember we used to go to Funderland every Easter, the number 2 bus from Knocknaheeny to Mahon. We used to be getting off the bus in Mahon, and they'd be accusing people renting to fight us because we were from up here. And all we wanted to do was run the waltzers.
Quite innocently,
or if you were going away matches. Now we used to be on a team called No Farm Athletic down at Namore, now like schoolboy soccer. But when you're going playing away games, you're from Knocknaheeny, they're going harder on you. Do you know what I mean? You're expected
just because.
Yeah, or with playing GA, you get abuse then as well. You know, you get a verbal abuse because of where you're from. You know, so. For some of us growing up there, then we just started living up to it. Then, you know, and it becomes like
retaliating, I suppose.
It becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, if this is the way we're going to be treated, but this is the way we're going to act. Now, that's obviously looking back, but when you're in it, we felt then like that. We're from this area, so we should be tough. You know what I mean? So let's act tough. Let's be the aggressor.
I get you, and I suppose that like. The killer blow is that it's such an influential age, like, you know, between possibly maybe a lack of awareness or education or possibly role models to redirect you. Like, I'm sure certain people in that scenario are often left to fend for themselves, plus then the mixture of that influential age and puberty and all that, and then the peer pressure on top of it, then, you know what I mean? It can't be too surprising that people of that age in that scenario react that one way.
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly. And in the 80s and the 90s, there would have been a lot of houses up there, a lot of social problems, very little services. Now there's a lot of services up there today, and I think Knocknaheny's reputation gives it an advantage these days in that the government gives it all the services. But without naming other communities, there's other communities in the north side that are far more run down and dilapidated than Knocknaheeny, and that have not half the services. You know?
I understand,
So, like, I suppose it's the benefit of today because the community does look well. There's a new regeneration, the housing project, there's a lot of services, as I said. But when we were growing up, we had the youth centre, alright. But traditionally, there would have been a lack of services, you know.
Right, okay, but as you say, you see an improvement there now at this stage. Like, that's
but
great.
There's a resurgence then in the joyriding at the moment, you know.
And that's what I was just going to mention to you, James, is as we say, even with the kind of tags and these titles and bits and pieces that are attached to certain locations, in this example around Cork, but we see the recent troubles then and anti-social behaviour between different areas. It was just triggered with me there when you said you get off the bus in a different area and they're waiting for you, and we've all seen there on Twitter and LinkedIn and stuff about the troubles recently, and it just triggered, as you say, kind of, you know, one feed the other. You know, it's like, where's this coming from and such, like, you know.
Yeah, and I think the resurgence in joyriding in the last couple of years, like in the 90s and the 80s and 90s, I said joyriding would have been a big thing. Robbing the car was not a hard thing to do, but in the late 90s, all cars was fit with immobilisers, so it's not like you need a key to take the car.
Yeah, as technology improved.
So then the joyriding kind of quieting down.
I get you, I understand. Makes sense, yeah.
Now with everybody's on social media, it's so easy to go on Facebook, buy a car for €100, doesn't need to be robbed.
I get you, that's true, yeah.
And that's what young people are doing. They don't have to rob cars. They can just go on Facebook. If there's 5 or 6 from there, come up €15 each, they go buy a car. It's not robbed then if they get caught. I know they get done for tax insurance, but it's not the same.
It's not even, yeah.
That's where the danger is.
It's fascinating what you just said, because in every sector, like, technology has advanced, and it could be medicine or education or anything. And here, and that's my point. Here we are, and so, you know, like, joyriding or anti-social behaviour, and technology has still found that gap in the market, and that's adapted to it, you know. It's very interesting. Another point I wanted to make to you, James, there was one other snippet and one little quote you said as well, is that to bring you right back to the family home there and your own time up in north side of Cork, and you mentioned that when UCC was literally 15 minutes walk away, but like society as good as told you that's a million miles away, you know, it's never happening. Can you kind of discuss and explain that? Living that, I suppose, a little bit for us.
In my neighbourhood in Ardcullen, we say there's 3 or 4 estates, a couple of hundred houses. I couldn't tell you any people that went to college at the time, do you know? Like, there was no out, and I say this, I do kind of talk to the prison service now, we're training prison officers and that.
Excellent.
And just kind of, like what you're asking me here now, just trying to let them know how people end up in prison and the environments they come from. But basically, there was no prison officers in my estate, there was no guards. If they were wanted.
And they were letting. I'm sure they were letting on that. Like,
there was no teachers, there was no doctors, there was no vets, there was no professional people really.
I understand.
They were good tradesmen.
There were still talent and skill there.
Exactly. But nobody was going to university. And our role models, well, not for all of us, but for me and my group of friends, we looked at the drug dealers and the criminals as role models.
As the go-to.
Whereas, if you're in a, I suppose, a more positive environment, you're looking at the teacher and you want to be a vet, or you want to be a soldier, or you want to be a guard, or you want to be a solicitor. Or if your daughter comes to you and says to you, or your son, Dad, I'd love to be a teacher, then you say, oh, the neighbour below there is a teacher. Or
you can go and chat and
like the teacher to us was about 18 degrees of separation.
Completely alien.
Like a teacher came into our community, taught and left. Do you know what I mean? We weren't integrated. You know, so it was like you feel excluded. Looking back on it, you're excluded from mainstream, and you're very limited options. So it was like you're in school. There was no encouragement in the secondary school I was in to go to university. It was never on our radar, as I said. You know, it just wasn't for us. Do you know what I mean? It was like you come from the north side, Hollyhill, Knockneeny, walk through some as well, and you're on Shaky Bridge. Go swimming there in the Lee Fields and that, go through the UCC, and that we never felt like that we're actually going to go studying in there.
Yeah,
walking through UCC was like walking through an American teen movie. It was so far removed from what we knew. I never felt, and then when I finished school and I started working on building sites and I was doing a bit of painting and some labouring and stuff, you know, I felt like this all just there for me. You know what I mean? And I just kind of gave it up, and you know, kind of escalated in drug use and stuff then.
Yeah, I understand. And you just mentioned there, James, about schooling. Like hindsight's a great thing, but looking back now as a mature adult, did your teachers try to give you that exposure to what you could be, or are you correct in saying that even the teachers didn't offer that? Like, was it a case of get me as far away as possible kind of attitude? Or was it actually a case that the education system and the schooling was actually lacking that kind of offering to you as well?
The school system I was in, and I won't name the school.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
You know, the school could be fantastic today, but
principle.
But at the time, the school was not a good school.
Right.
And it was very, it was tiered. So you had 3 years. Say you went into first year with 1A1, which was the SWATs, really intelligent, quiet people. 1A2 was, they were bright enough, they needed a bit of work type of thing. And 1A3 then was for the dunces, the people that didn't want to learn, the people that couldn't learn.
Again, it's the tags and the titles, isn't it? So day one, you're giving your category, it's terrible.
And I was always bright in school, but I misbehaved a lot. You know, I had a lot going on at home at the time.
Yeah.
A bit of addiction in my home as well.
Right.
My father would have been in prison when I was 12 for a few years as well. You know, so when I went into secondary school, there was a lot going on at home, and I didn't really have the concentration that was in school, and I would have acted out. But instead of some teacher coming asking you what's wrong, how can we help, how can we address this problem, it was like moving from 1A1 down to 1A3 and boxing them
and that's the answer.
Yeah. And looking back, I was in a class with people that clearly had intellectual disabilities, they had dyslexia, some of them wanted to learn, they just couldn't. But there was no support for them. And then there would have been me and another couple of misfits that we were just kind of left there, and we just sorted through secondary school like that. In and out of suspension, on the hop, nothing expected of us.
And I imagine peer pressure will just kick in, and you're just doing that.
Exactly.
You also have to fit in.
No maths in school, no maths in education. It would cause fierce conflict for me at home then, because my mum wanted me to do the leaving cert, and I wanted to leave school. My teachers wanted me out of school. The principal wanted me out of school. My mum didn't have it. So I would have spent a lot of time out of school, but technically not expelled, you know.
Yeah.
So I was allowed back to sit the leaving cert.
Right, okay.
I remember leaving exams because the World Cup was on, and you know.
Yeah, it had priority list.
My nephew was there in the last couple of years, they done their leaving certs. There's so much pressure on them, I wanted to do so well, but when I was in their situation, I didn't give a shit. I didn't, you know, so. And I often think about if I did have my head together at the time, where would I be today, 34, you know? If I went straight into university after school, with my head together, what could I achieve? But you know what, it doesn't matter, because I wouldn't have the character I have today and the personality and the life I have today. I'm very happy with, you know.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear it, but very well said, and we'll get to it later, but Jesus, like, you have a list of achievements there, and you continue to add to it, and like, even in my own line of work and my own kind of backstory there. Like it's a bit cheesy, but nearly every podcast I end up saying it, that what's meant to be will be, and what's meant to be will happen that way, you know. And like in terms of what you just mentioned, what's in the past is in the past. But I mean, as I say, we'll come to it there in a minute in terms of what you've achieved anyway.
Exactly.
You ended up maybe where you wanted to be, you know.
It's just about, if you're looking into the past, you're only looking at it to see how it betters your future. And when I look at my past and all the negative experiences, that's all learning for me. That was all learning for me. I know I have that empathy that I can bring into relationships going forward.
Fantastic.
I can help young people, I can help adults, and I can, you know, encourage people in recovery, encourage people to go into education, encourage people that they can change, you know, trying to instill a belief in people that, yeah, things might be shit, but there's a whole range of possibilities out there for you if you just get your head together. You know, so.
Fantastic stuff. It's a very powerful message, James. Excellent. And just before we move on from the kind of topic of social class, and I wonder, had you ever reflected on your youth and your upbringing and how it would have transpired if the move to Cork hadn't happened?
I think it would have been worse.
Worse?
I think it would have been worse.
Is that just from your experience and your knowledge of the area of Dublin that you're talking about,
like,
and the area of Cork you're talking about?
North side of Cork is relatively rough in compared to other parts of Cork, but in compared to Dublin it's not. Like, I don't know if you watched the K District.
Yeah, I saw that. Good match.
We had never seen anything like that down here.
Yeah.
You know, I was on Blanchardstown and Finglas, was on TV.
Similar areas or
roughest district in Dublin, but Jesus, that was mental. That's like Dublin is on a different level altogether. And up there, huge drug scene. You know, like we hadn't really got heroin in Cork City until the noughties, 2005, 2006. We never had the heroin like the way they had in Dublin.
It was already rampant.
It was like, and I think probably I would have been dead by an overdose or something like that. You know, so she made the right move moving out of Dublin, because Dublin is on a different scale altogether. Man, it just comes back to, again, call it cheesy, but like what's meant to be will be. There was a reason she moved, and you know, it just by chance. I didn't mean for that to happen there in the conversation, but what's meant to be will be. You know, so I just wanted to get your input on it. Had you ever taken the opportunity to reflect and wonder what the answer to that question would be? You know, James, is there a pinpoint moment for you that triggered? We'll come to the turnaround in your life in a second in detail if you're comfortable to do so, but is there any one moment that you talk about or reflect, I don't know if positively the correct word, but that you reflect on and say, you know, Jesus, thank God that happened? Like, there was an accumulation of incidents, but there was no one incident where it was like
black and white or whatever.
That's the end for me, you know. There was accumulated, invariably revolved around people showing me kindness and concern for me. Because my self-esteem would have been very low. Okay. You know, like when you're a heroin user, there's a stigma attached to it. You know, when you feel dirty, you feel low, very low.
Okay.
You know, you have very low confidence and self-esteem, very low self-image and self-worth.
And would they have been natural characteristics of yours?
I think I developed them over my teens.
Oh, right,
you know,
okay.
like in school, it was a very bad experience for me. I came out of there feeling stupid, like I couldn't learn, like I couldn't behave myself, I couldn't interact. So by the time I came out of school, my confidence was gone really.
It was on the floor.
So then I started using, drinking alcohol and drugs, and I kind of built up my confidence and all the insecurities, and there was a lot of fear as well. I got a lot of fear and anxiety. But when I drank and took drugs, I didn't. So that's why I always self-medicated myself.
Is that a false sense of confidence and self-awareness with drug and alcohol use?
It's just very poor coping skills. Like everybody feels anxiety, and on any given day, your confidence could be low.
Absolutely.
No, that's human nature. But for me, I have very poor coping skills to deal with that,
and
I internalised all that. So like if I'm getting bad reports in school and I go home and getting in trouble at home over it,
it's all negative. It's a repetitive negative.
It was all negativity. It was just all negativity. So by the time I come out of school, the negativity was just constant. You know?
I understand.
So when I come out of school, I started drinking, taking drugs. I felt better. But it was false.
But it is
because when you're on drinking drugs, you feel worse than you started.
Back down or whatever.
So then you're always chasing the feeling of feeling better, and it leads you from drinking, ecstasy, and happy drugs onto harder drugs like tranquilizers and heroin, where you're numbing everything. You know, when you haven't got it, everything, all the fear and anxiety and insecurities are magnified. No, but it's a false. The drugs help you in terms of they do get rid of your insecurities and anxieties of yours, but in the long term.
But it's a short term.
Exactly.
A short term fix.
Exactly.
Yeah. Excellent. Very well answered. It's very interesting. And you mentioned there, James, that it wasn't maybe one incident, but an array of.
Yeah.
Getting
back to that, there was, for years I had enough. Like, I had suicide attempt when I was 18. Thankfully, it didn't work.
Absolutely.
You know? And I used drugs long after that. But if you're looking back, the drugs actually helped me survive that. My mental health was so bad at the time, and I self-medicated with mainly Valium and Rohypnol and stuff, benzodiazepine tablets. I self-medicated and it kind of got me through that. And I think, well, if I didn't have the drugs at that time, what way would I have coped with my mental health? Would have been, I don't know, would I have? Do you know what I mean?
It's interesting, yeah.
And so like, the drugs worked for me and it did help me get through that rough stage of my life. But I always was, like, even at the suicide attempt, that was drug related too, do you know what I mean? It was after a heavy binge of ecstasy, alcohol, just a really low.
I'd imagine all of these incidents are linked. If you delve deep enough,
like,
if you ever.
Constant negativity, the low self-esteem, coming down off a load of drugs, and your head just convinces you that you're better off away, and your family's better off, or this type of things, you know. But thankfully, I didn't.
Absolutely.
But the drugs helped me. But as I was saying, the drugs helped me survive that. But I always wanted out. I was never settling for. This is it now for you, James. No, I always felt like you can actually do more. There's more in you. You can do something with yourself. So I went into treatment a couple of times. And when I was in and out of prison, I would link in with key workers, and charities that were NGOs that would come into the prison, and I'd set up care plans. So then meet them weekly. Then when I get out, the magnitude of what I'm supposed to do, change my life, my identity, my personality, move away, family, friends, just becomes like this huge obstacle, and then it just ends up in relapse. You know what I mean? But I always wanted to change. Go back into prison. I'd meet the same key workers, we'd go again. But then I started chatting with this female prison officer, and she took a shine into me. She was a nice woman, like. And she was saying, "Fuck James, you're actually a nice young fella. Like, when you're in here, you can go to the gym, you're going to the school, there's no trouble. Then you get out, you're back in a few weeks later, you're like half the man. I can't understand, like, the person that
what's going on in the middle
today goes out, like, what happens when you get out that you come back in the way you come in?" And she instilled in me, like, she was saying, she was doing a course herself, college course at the time, and she was like, you could do something with yourself, you're intelligent, smart. But these kind of, like,
encouraging us.
Yeah, like stuff that I wasn't getting. You know
that was my next question. If you don't mind me interrupting, is it one of the first times you're experiencing this from this lady? Like,
Totally. Like, she was a prison officer. Obviously, my interaction with prison officers would have been negative. Visiting my father, being in prison myself, the uniform represented something very negative to me.
Right, okay.
But here was somebody showing me kindness for the sake of it. Like, she wasn't getting anything in return, but she was just being nice. And then there was an incident where I had an overdose outside, and a couple of Gardaí, and I said that in Tommy Tiernan Show. A couple of Gardaí was like, "Fuck it, James, it's worse you're going to be found dead," And again, my experience with, or my perception of a Garda would have been very negative, and even in my neighbourhood, we didn't really look at guards as people that. No, don't get me wrong. If something happened to your house in the morning, or you were in trouble, the first person you would ring is a guard.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you didn't trust them. That was kind of the way we were socialised. The guards weren't to be trusted.
Right.
If there was an issue, we'd sort it over ourselves.
I get to understand. Yeah.
But these two guards were like, "Fuck, you're a new law here, James. You will be found dead. I get yourself sorted that, and like that, a couple of incidents like that, and like come away thinking, maybe I am better than what is here. Maybe I can do better things, So there wasn't one thing. There was a few different
things. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's excellent. And as I say there, as I mentioned, the idea that maybe that female cop. Are you still in contact with her? Or do you? No.
No, never missing.
But what I was going to say to you is the fact that you might have identify this as a first, that it's someone, as you very well put it there, that it must have come across very obvious to you that there was no hidden agenda, or she wasn't looking for anything in return, or would it cost you nothing. It was genuine kindness.
And like my perception, as I said, my perception of authority was very much challenged by these nice police officers and nice prison officers. You know, so then I began to question other stuff I was socialised with, other beliefs, other core beliefs I had, like you're a drug addict, you're involved in crime, you're in prison. That was my identity, and that was what I believed was all I was going to become. You know, so interactions then that challenge your core beliefs, then you begin to question other core beliefs. You know what I mean? And that really helped me, I suppose, change in terms of when I finally got the treatment. I began to question other core beliefs. My idea of what a man is, masculinity, it was all very fucked up. Honestly,
it's fascinating.
The role models we had, it was like that's not normal behaviour. Like the environment we grew up, it's not normal environment we run up. You know what I mean? Why isn't the university isn't for me? Why isn't it for me? Why isn't this? We began to think that. Why am I limited to this very narrow life script when I'm not happy in it, and I want to do all this other stuff, but it's not for me. Then I'm thinking, no, James, it is for you. You can choose to go to university if you want. You can choose to have a wife. You can choose to drive a car. You can choose to have a house and a nice job. If you want it, it's there for you. And I come out of treatment, and no man, I come out of there with a new set of beliefs. It's like I rejected all that other shit that I grew up with. That old personality, mentality, and identity. I rejected everything, and I just moved away from the north side. Nothing wrong with the north side, but my situation up there wasn't great, so I moved away from it, moved away from family and friends, and moved over to the south side, Wilton. Really quiet. It was anonymous over there. Anonymous over there, and it suited me, and I just went to a lot of meetings, met new people, started doing the work, started going on a date with a woman. We got married afterwards, and she showed me then like that. College was the way to go.
The next step as well, fantastic.
Yeah, so the treatment centre and all these little interactions, it's all cumulative, you know.
It's powerful stuff, it's fantastic stuff. And what I was just going to mention on is, I'm big on support systems. I know we spoke off there for a second about it, but it's fascinating what you're talking about, as you just mentioned, these interactions with strangers, be it the lady that became your wife was a stranger initially, and the female cop, or the two guards that found that in that other incident. But what I was going to say to you is, like, have you a message I suppose on the general importance of support systems, or for anyone that might be listening, even in a bit of bother or whatever it might be? You know, I understand it takes you need to get a certain kind of crossroads to reach out. Like, you know, it's not an easy thing to do always. Like, but there are support systems around everyone. You know what I mean?
And it might seem like an insurmountable task at the moment, but if we link in with services, it can be done. Like, it's not what you think is impossible is not actually impossible. It's very possible with support, and you can bring that to any walk of life.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and that's why people, after the Tommy Tiernan Show, people that didn't have my experiences back home, they can relate with it, because everybody's been in situations where you feel like, how am I going to get out of this desperate situation? Feel like you're trapped, feel like this is all that's there for you, and you know, but you can't get out of it. But you need support, you need to have a bit of structure, you need help, and you need to avail of the help. Sometimes help can be offered to you and you can't accept it. You have to be open to receiving it as well. No, but there is services out there, no matter what your issue is, no matter what your issue is, there's help there for everybody, and anybody can change, you know, if they can.
Absolutely, very well said. And we can link in some of the free phone numbers and the help numbers to the show notes as well. That's excellent, James. Bring us closer up to speed and closer up to today's work. You're familiar with the grounds and the insides of UCC?
I am.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you've been up to in the last couple of years?
When I came out of treatment that time, I was doing the C scheme cleaning, which was grand. It was grand. It was in the Simon Cork Community Administration Building on Cork Street.
Excellent.
My first job in years. I was part-time, as I said, community employment, so I wasn't really paid for it, but the structure provided to me. You know, I was able to get up every morning, I had something to do.
Yeah, a purpose, I guess.
Exactly. I got plenty of training in there.
Excellent.
And interacting with the people that work in the building, you know, building my confidence, again, there was lots of encouragement from them. I said, James, you're grand at what you're doing here now, like, but you could actually do way more. They were talking to me that this is not where I belong at all. You know, I can do better things. And then your confidence is building all the time. I said, fuck it, maybe I can.
Maybe I can.
And so I said, whatever I end up doing, because I was lacking, like I had a lot of motivation and energy, but I didn't really know what I was going to do. But I was lacking a bit of direction. But what I did identify was I needed to learn how to use a computer. I didn't know how to use computers, you know. So I done a basic computer course for a few weeks, and I was like, right, that's that done. Then I met my wife at the time, and she encouraged me to go. She said, look, it would be great if you got a job helping other people that was in addiction, you know, that'd be perfect for you. So I fucking thought, they actually pay people to do that.
Sign me up.
Yeah, so exactly how do I do that? So it was College of Commerce for a year, applied social studies and psychology. I loved it.
Excellent.
And then after that, I did a 3-year bachelor's degree in youth and community work in UCC.
Congratulations,
and then I won a scholarship to do a master's in criminology, and I got first class honours there recently. And then in the last week, I won a scholarship to do a PhD that I'm starting.
There's no stopping you, Brian. No stopping you. Okay, congratulations.
It's just, there's no what way. Just people invest in me. You know, like I put in the hard work, and you know, if people invest time in me, I invest effort in them. You know, if a lecture, if I get a good quality lecture, and I have a bandwidth to lecturer, you know, I want to do the best for that lecturer. I want to give them the best essay. I want to give them the best work. And then, as the work was good quality, then you're in a position where you're eligible for scholarships. You know what I mean? So I'm lucky that way. You know what I mean? But it's all hard work at the same time. It's hard work, but some good people as well. You know what I mean? Right? I mean, you know, people. Good people cross my path at the right time.
Yeah, no, that's what I was just going to pick up on. Is just kind of thrown around to that now. Currently in these days, but networking. I suppose even listening to your story, what might have been one or two coincidental interactions, a prison officer or whoever it is, no, you have the control to. I mean, look at us across the table today. That's networking. You know what I mean? And you're going out there, putting yourself out there, getting to know people, and you know, more power to you. Like it's important stuff, and it's powerful stuff. I was engaging
with a charity in Cork there for that, to support people that have been in prison in Cork, on Patrick's Key, Cork Alliance Centre, done with Vic. But she led a manager there, but she would bring me to conferences, criminology conferences, criminal justice conferences, and I would go along as a student. No, like I go along meeting people, you know, we're meeting judges and meeting solicitors and meeting academics and just mixing in them circles, you know. And again, you're becoming more confident. But you're looking back and you're thinking, you know, not much of them, but then with hindsight, now you're thinking how valuable them experiences are, you know, because I would have had a fierce inferiority complex around anybody like a judge or a guard or an academic or anything like that.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
But after a while, you believe, like, I can be as good as them. I look right to sit at this table as much as anybody else.
They might come to see you, you know, and that's absolutely fine too.
Good people invested good time in me, you know, and I suppose I'm getting the benefits of it today.
And can you identify that now in a conference like that, or in a one-to-one lecture in UCC, or the time and the effort and that people around you are giving you now, and can you identify that is what was missing?
I think so.
15, 20, whatever amount of years ago. Like.
Exactly. If you look at, and I wrote a small chapter for an upcoming criminology book in UCC, right?
There's literally no stopping you. Amazing. More power to you.
It was just a small kind of bio, and then a kind of criminological analysis using literature afterwards. So it was basically, look, like what you said there, if you look at my time in university, and as I said, you know, lecturers showing me lots of attention, seeing the value of me, and the potential and nurturing that, I rewarded them, or I worked as hard as I could for them. You know, and I remember in my criminology masters especially, I had 6 modules and a dissertation, not 6 modules, 6 different lecturers, 6 different expectations. But I got first class for every one of them. You know, and it was like I wanted to show them that I was appreciative of what they were giving me.
Fantastic.
But in school it wasn't like that. In school I didn't get that attention. They didn't give a shit about me. So why then I was like, why should I give a shit about me?
If you're not going to get it back.
Exactly. Why should I stay quiet and sit down in the back of your class? You don't give a shit about me. Do you know what I mean? And it's looking back now, it's interesting to see, like, maybe there is children in school and they have a lot of potential. Like, I came out of school thinking I was stupid. So then there has to be an onus on the teacher to nurture the child that finds it hard to learn, or to nurture the challenging child, rather than labelling them a dunce or stupid or misbehaving, you know?
Yeah, very well said. It's very interesting, as you say, that the child, you know, if you will, a young James, could be in a class, not necessarily take her on out of it, but could be in the back of a classroom now.
Yeah.
And also, as you've touched on a few times during the conversation, that there was something within you always, like, just going like, geez, I'm due more than this, like, you know, I've more to give, like.
Yeah.
So equally, that same fire inside could be in that child at the back of the classroom, and if they're just
for somebody to nurture it, that's all it is. So let's be the people that nurture us,
and
not be the judges. Like, we don't judge people or label people. Let's be the nurturing people. Let's, you know, give the kind word. You know, be nice to people. You know, encourage people. And don't mind the labeling. Or he's this, he's that, he's the other. Kind of think critically as you're looking at young people. And I know young people get a lot of flack at the moment, especially during COVID because of social distancing. But you know, let's kind of look at it with a more critical eye. It's not as simple as good and evil.
Absolutely,
good and bad, you know.
And it applies to adults too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And like, what's hugely ironic, like, monkey see, monkey do at the same time as well.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
do you know, if we're a whole lot kinder, and there's not a man or woman around, you know, that are being as kind as they could possibly be, we can all do a bit extra. Like, it's only all positive progress, like, you know. And on top of your studies then, James, which is absolutely fantastic, and a huge congratulations to you on all you've achieved. I think you mentioned it earlier that you're working as a youth support officer at the Cork Education and Training Board. Can you delve into that a small bit for us and for our listeners?
Yeah, so the Cork ETB Youth Services, where I am, we fund youth workers and youth projects in Cork.
Okay.
So we administer the funding and we kind of coordinate the youth services in Cork City and County. So we kind of have the administrative function for the Department of Children and Youth Affairs, and then outside of that, then we'd run programs and projects and stuff like that. So today's bonfire night. We have a lot going on tonight in terms of online stuff, obviously.
Okay.
But then we run trainings and courses and, you know, stuff.
Brilliant. And is there an age category? Is it schoolgoers or?
At the moment, young people are being classified by the department as 10 to 24.
10 to 24, right. Young kids and young adults. So.
Yeah.
And so does that totally differentiate what you can provide to them? Like that, I mean, that's a child and an adult. Like.
I think it's been reclassed to 10 to 24 because, like, traditionally, from my experience, and is the norm, a youth centre, and I don't think you have a youth service in Ballincollig.
There was a youth reach, I don't know, this is still wrong.
There's a youth centre, a youth reach is slightly different. But a youth centre would generally be 15, anybody after 15, 16 wouldn't go back to the youth centre because it's seen as a facility for younger kids. You know?
Understand.
So then if people was coming to 16, 17, they were out of school, they're not adults and they're not children and they were getting lost
in the system and
stuff. Yeah, they were getting lost in unemployment, and like that's crucial age between the age of 17 and 24. You know, like if you're idle for them years, good chance you're going to be long-term unemployed. You're going to develop addictions and
whatever else might come your way. Yeah.
So the youth service, the new youth service, as we see it now, is going to be like we have to re-engage that cohort of young people. You know, maybe it didn't work out for them in school, and maybe they didn't want to education now. But they might have, like what we're talking about, they might have a lot of ability, and we try and get them back in the doors and get them back into programs, and maybe then move them on to education. You know? Yeah,
it's very interesting actually, even the fact that gap has been identified, because it makes perfectly good sense what you're saying to me.
And I always say this, I went from the age of 16 to the age of 26, I did not mature at all. Like, I started...
I wasn't fair behind you.
I started partying at 16 and I didn't stop. For 10 years.
For 10 years.
No, I was very immature as a boy, like 18, 19.
Through those influential years.
I was very immature, you know. So we can't expect, he's 18, he's a man.
He's an adult and a man.
Because then there's 18-year-old, 19, 20, 21, they're not meant, do you know what I mean? Like, they might be growing, like, physically.
Yeah, physically, yeah.
Mentally, they're not, and that, they still need the support, you know.
Particularly, and I certainly don't mean to label anyone like that, but like, if they've been in and out of education or missed the whole pile of it, like, sure, it doesn't matter if the birth cert makes them 18 and an adult. They're not. Yeah. They may not have the capabilities of another 18-year-old, 20-year-old or whatever.
They might, like, the formal education system is a very rigid system. It's like academic ability, you're academic, you're valued. If you're not academic, you're less valued for you.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't work for everybody.
No.
And if you're coming from a home where they're doing manual jobs or they're doing trades or whatever, you know, then there might be a big emphasis on academic ability in the home. So then the school system doesn't really represent you or your family and your values, you know. So just because they're not doing well in school doesn't mean they're not going to do well.
I understand.
You know what I mean? So we just have to get them into different courses, expose them to different avenues, and different options. That it's not all about getting 400 points.
Absolutely, yeah. And the only thing I'd add to that, maybe with my own background, in terms of another category is sporting ability.
Exactly.
So it's loaded onto them if they're good, like such across any sport, and the academic stuff can be secondary sometimes.
Howard Gardner, I might get that name wrong, but he's a psychologist and he identified 9 types of intelligence, and academic ability is one. But there's sport, there's spatial intelligence, there's emotional intelligence, there's art and all these other things, you know. But we kind of have a very rigid system where we value academic, but you could be musical, you could be sporty, you could be great with people,
absolutely,
all these things.
Yeah. And as the man that's sitting here in front of me, if you have a certain experience in any walk of life, there's instant value there. Like, do you know what I mean? And that needs to be kind of looked at as well and supported as well, you know. Is education / awareness / kind of an understanding of this key to progression in your opinion? Like,
yeah, you know, definitely.
Or even networking has come up in this conversation, actually meeting these people, be it under 18 or over 18, giving them a chance and then getting to, you know. And
you have to meet people, and you have to, you know, show people that, you know, there's a way to progress in life, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So everybody has ability, as I said, and everybody can have a role, everybody can be happy.
Absolutely. Again, to add to that, it's one I've read along the way as well, is that everyone has something to offer, like,
exactly.
You know, and sometimes it can be hidden or it can be.
And you might find it in school, but sometimes, like, you know, it's not the be all and end all. You know what I mean? School is not the be all and end all. Like, you're not going to get taught how to be a personal trainer in school. You're not going to get taught to be, you know, a lot of things in school. That doesn't mean you can't go on and do it.
That you can't go on and do it. Yeah, very well said. It's a brilliant message, actually, and a very powerful message. And James, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you have your one of the events at work this evening as well, so we're nearly there. But one other message that I did pull away, and it's kind of a very powerful and a very kind of deep message, again from the interview that was televised. Towards the end of it, you said to Tommy, that there's nothing more important than keeping yourself alive, which is very fucking powerful. Like, can you add to that, or
do you know where I heard that?
Discuss.
Tupac Shakur's mother's quote. I think.
Is it?
Yeah, do you know? I think it's in. It's either Tupac Changes or Ghetto Gospels. One of them anyway. The big hits after he died, and at the end of it, there's like a quote. Nothing more important in the world than keeping yourself.
That's right.
Something along with Phoenix Shakur, blah blah blah. But that was where that came from.
That's class.
And when you think about it, like, when I'm looking back, there's been times in my life, right, and I spoke about this with my wife recently, there's been times in addiction and that where I made decisions that kept me alive. Like, there's decisions where, at times where I've been using drugs with people, and one of them might have died, or one of them might have come to harm, or something like that. And I made a decision to move away just before. Like, there was one case where we were partying and the lads were going on to another house, and they were talking about more serious drugs that I wasn't used to at the time. And something told me to go home, and I went home, and one of them died. You know, and there was certain times then where I was in a house, and you could feel an energy in the house, and you could feel that something would happen. Leave and go home, load of violence escalated afterwards, you know. But there's the car crashes, you know, getting out of cars and car crashing there, or these type of things, you know. But I always seemed like I had a gut of this in psychology, like it's like your core self that's guiding you, that's keeping me safe, you know. A Christian or a spiritual person may say, a higher power or
or God.
I always felt like that there was always something, a gut feeling edging me in the right direction. It was always kind of keeping me safe, and overdoses and just being found by people.
And can you link it with anything if you don't?
I just think it's just an innate self.
Just born with
like in psychoanalysis, like Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, that type of thing. And I'm not a psychologist, but I just know a little bit.
A little bit from.
But they talk about it's your inner self, like you have your conscious self, your identity, and how you perceive things and your personality and all that. But you have an inner self too, that it's your subconscious that you're not aware of, but it guides you and it keeps you, like if something's coming to your face, it'll plop your hand,
react.
it'll move you out of the way to keep you safe. And I always felt, like from learning psychology and reading stuff, I was able to say, maybe that's what's kept me safe all the time, maybe that's what kept me alive.
And do you still feel it or experience it?
No, I definitely do, because it's like when you're looking for purpose, and then the right people come into your life, as I said, but then you get a gut and you're like, go for it, James, go for it. Just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? You'll be safe. You fail, you fail. So what's the worst that can happen? You'll have no experience, you'll meet new people. What's the best that can happen?
You're already winning,
Exactly. It's just having a gut and trusting it.
Funny the way that you just told the tale that you just did, because one of my last questions here is that, do you believe in luck?
I do.
Do you?
I do, yeah.
Contrary to what you just distorted,
I think
the point you just made.
Maybe not luck, but I think I do believe in like an energy. Like when I come out of treatment, like when I was in the throes of addiction, it was all negative. My whole mindset was negative. My experiences were negative, right? So I was in a negative headspace, and all I attracted was negative outcomes and circumstances. That's all it was. When I come out of treatment, as I said to you, I come out with a new mentality, a new set of beliefs, more positive. Like, I didn't come out I never was able to have this kind of introspection. I look back at my life with this kind of vocabulary and understanding, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's only through college and through reading and stuff that I'm able to look back at my experiences and kind of articulate them to you and kind of analyse them, But like when I think about it, I was living in such a negative headspace and negative lifestyle. All I ever got was negativity, overdoses, prison sentences, homelessness, all that stuff. That's all I got. But when I come out of treatment and I got rid of all the core beliefs that were negative, and then all these options, positive options, and that's what I pursued. All I've gotten since is positivity.
It's the same back.
I'm after getting a beautiful wife, I'm after getting a lovely job, I've a lovely car outside, I've lovely
education,
home.
everything. Yeah.
And it's not like I'm putting my will into everything. I don't. I have a little plan and I have little goals and I work away at my goals and everything kind of happens organically. Do you know what I mean? Like, I never knew I was going to end up with ETB. I'm delighted I'm there. They weren't on my radar, but I worked myself into a position where I was of interest to them and I was able to play for a position there. But there's never a big master plan. There's not. It's just like, I build up my experience, I work as hard as I can, and good things will happen to me out of it, and that's it. It's not, is that luck or is it attracting positivity?
Energy back in.
I think it's attracting the positive energy.
Are you proud of yourself?
I am proud of myself, but I don't sit and dwell at it at all.
Oh, that's a fair point.
It's like when I graduated there in February, that was probably it.
That's huge, yeah.
But then straight away it was like PhD, let's write a proposal, how do I pursue it? Then when I got the scholarship, it was fucking delayed, and then it's like the next day you're down to work, and that's it. It's like you don't dwell on it because I'm not finished. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I want to put myself in a position where when I'm retired, I can look back on my life and I can say, "Grand, you started off shit, but after that you didn't waste a day, and you reached your potential." And that's what I want to do. So when I'm retired, I might look back and say, "You know what? That was great, well done." But for now, I'm too busy working hard.
Good on you, boy. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And James, for anyone else listening in today who may currently be going through a tough period of any type, really, be it crime or abuse or addiction or anything at all, and I'm sure you've been asked 101 times, particularly even maybe since your TV appearance, but is there any kind of go-to advice or messages or anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think in case of an immediate concern for a loved one, the Samaritans in Pierre House is your best bet. After that, then everybody has we have a Cork local drug task force.
Right.
If we're looking for help around addiction, and they can provide counsellors and treatment options and stuff like that. Certain areas have community drugs workers, and so like it's just a matter of googling it. Everybody is working still in some form or another on the phone. The services are up and running, even though the door might be closed. Everybody's still available. So that's it. Also, after the Tommy Tiernan Show, I had literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people contacting me looking for help, support, guidance. They had loved ones in addiction, they were in addiction themselves, they were suicidal, they had loads of people, mental health issues, nothing got to do with addictions. Overweight, underweight, suicidal, bipolar. And I was like, how do I help all these people? I'm not, like, people asking me to come up to Dundalk, Donegal, I'm in Galway, will you come up and talk to this, that, So I come up with like, how am I going to address all these people, how am I going to help all these people, There's a lot of people hurting out there. So then the idea for the podcast came up when I spoke to my friend, and he suggested, why don't we do a podcast? So we're recording our first episode Friday night, and we hope to have it on YouTube. It'll be a video recorded.
Oh my God,
so it'll be visual as well as audio. So, and we'll hope to have on people in recovery. We'll have on psychologists, academics, community workers, youth workers, and I think it'll be a nice little information hub for people, for anybody suffering. And it's not even addiction and crime. It'll be a wide range of topics, but it'll have a lot of information for people.
Fantastic.
It's called the Two Narries.
Very well named, accurately named. Well, we wish you the best of luck with that. We look forward to
you might come on, Julie, as well.
Absolutely, Jesus, yeah, we'll try and start something there. Before we wrap it up, as you mentioned, with so many people reaching out to you, and we tipped into it throughout the conversation, but I would feel, and I'm sure you can kind of correct me otherwise, but do people feel more comfortable reaching out to someone who's lived it, as opposed to maybe the principal of the school or?
I think so. Yeah.
Mum or dad, is that a connection that definitely helps the whole operation?
It does, because you've credibility because you've been through it, But I think the big part of it really is there's no judgment there. Like if you come to me, if you have addiction issues, and you come to me knowing I was in addiction, I'm not going to be sitting in judgment because I've been there myself. Mm-hmm. So then, like a lot of addiction stuff like that, a lot of it is shame and guilt. So I think people do confide in me. When I was working in Cork Silent Community, service users and residents used to come to me and confide in me and be more open with me than some of the other staff, and it was just because I was in recovery, that was it. The other staff were great too, and they'd, but it was just that I was in recovery, they'd be a little more open with me, and they'd ask more questions because I've been through it and all that, so definitely beneficial.
Yeah, as I said, I was thinking that would be the answer, but I just wanted to put it to you. James, if anybody wants to reach out to you, if you welcome that, can they find you online somewhere?
Twitter, James Leonard 85.
Good man.
And my email address is on my Twitter bio as well. It's jamesleonard188@gmail.com.
We can throw them into the show notes, and we'll put in whichever helplines and stuff that you mentioned there earlier as well. James, you're a remarkable man, a gentleman, and a truly inspirational individual, and I mean that so sincerely. I wish you every success and more with everything you do. And the very best of luck going forward. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Johnny.
All the best.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to share and tag us on your stories and leave a review. As always, you can find us at jlynchpt.ie and across all our social media platforms with the handle @jlynchptcentre. Mind yourselves, mind each other, and stay safe. Until the next one, cheers.